All right. Just watched the Mariners with a crazy walk-off extra inning win. Had a few beers, but it's time for the next FODEUSS breakdown. This is Tom here, and we're going to break down rounds 7 and 8 of the FODEUSS draft tonight. And should be a good time looking at stats, looking at my scouts and how they rate these guys, which we've established is probably at least slightly inaccurate in some cases and wildly inaccurate in others. If you haven't watched the previous videos, I would suggest doing that maybe before watching this one, or just jump right in with us in round 7. Here we go. So we're starting off with Joe Medwick, Ducky, the first pick of round 7 by Jedi Marine. And yeah, looking pretty amazing actually. These stats are kind of ridiculous. A lot of the guys that I'm looking at drafting for these corner outfield spots are looking pretty similar to this. You can't really argue with any of this. I mean, he's going to chase a little bit, but I mean, I often wonder how these things work in conjunction with each other. The avoid Ks and the I, like, is he chasing and not striking out? I mean, and then if he's hitting the ball, even if it's out of the strike zone, he's putting it in play, getting base hits, getting tons of doubles. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the eye. And maybe that's a mistake. Maybe you should be more worried about it. Maybe getting on base via the walk. Obviously, that's what modern sabermetrics would say is the best. So, maybe I should not dismiss this so easily, but I kind of tend to dismiss this if everything else looks like this. And so yeah, Joe Medwick, great pick for the outfield and really decent defense. Not going to make any errors, just like maybe lacking range a little, but if he's out in left field, that's not as important. So great pick by Jedi Marine. I actually pulled up the list ahead of time this time, so we can just jump right into, this controversial pick. The second pick of the round, Alex Rodriguez by Sith Overlord. And okay, so here's what I think a lot of the controversy is, right? Last year, Heels was using Yankees third base. That's Pudge. He was using Yankees third base A-Rod, and before that, I think people were using the Texas A-Rod. So a lot of the issues with his defense might have come from using those other years. And I'm really glad to see it. I was looking at drafting him. I know a lot of other people said they were as well, because I was really wanting to use one of these Mariners years, which this should be the year. Well, it doesn't say, but I'm sure it is. The year 2000, which Sith Overlord picked, which was his last Mariners season. And I think this defense is looking great. So I don't think you're going to have those issues. Get the report from NT, obviously, and it might not look the same, but he looks really good there. And these numbers, maybe you'd like to see a little better. I thought I pulled in 96 A-Rod as well, but I guess I didn't. We could do it really quick, because that's the other one that I was really interested in. I was only interested in the Mariners' years. And his super young 96 season when he just went off, I thought also might be really good. The defense might not look like that, though. Let's just grab it really quick. So 96. I'm sure that's the right year. I know his career too well, at least when he was on the Mariners, yeah. He hit 358 that year. I mean, he did strike out a bit more. No, not really. Actually, struck out less. Walked a lot less, though. The eye is not going to be so good, probably. But it's worth looking at, right? It's worth looking this other, because I do think a Mariners year for sure. Okay, so it's funny, right? Because these ratings look so much better. Oh, and especially with the potential ratings. The defense, you are taking a pretty significant hit down from like 65 to 50 if this is accurate, but might be worth looking at. Anyway, I think the controversy is overblown because I think people were picking the wrong years before. At least that's my theory. especially with the defense. So honestly, probably just sticking with that 2,000 a year because of that better defense, and it's so important at shortstop. Anyway, moving on. Joe Mauer, and it's amusing because in my other save, like, oh no, he's 5 stars here too. I was gonna say he's 5 stars in my other save, but he is here too as well. Just this amazing contact, like, and like I've said before in the previous videos, like I do feel like this part of your offense is more important than this part. I mean, it depends on how you're building your team and stuff, but I just feel like this has actually had more success in the actual game. And then your defense is just, a little bit of, like, I think 50 is where I would kind of be the cutoff for me for my catcher. I wouldn't go below that. So you're a little bit above that and should just be really decent. Blocking is really good. And then these numbers are just, they're better than okay. They're better than average, I would say. So you're going to be good with this catcher, I think. Great pick by Dark Lord of the Empire. Next, we had Lloyd with Hilton Smith, and that's another one we can't look at. And then Tunes, I convinced to change the year on Dizzy Dean. I feel like if he watches these videos, I've suggested so many other year changes. We looked at all these years of Tony Gwynn. So maybe I think Tony Gwynn is the only other one, though, that I'm really adamant about, that you should do 87 instead of 97. But the other ones, like, I feel like we looked at other years, but the years you picked were fine. But let's look at Dizzy Dean. Just looking great with these pitches, right? That's why I wanted him in the back end of the bullpen to have the Dizzy and Dazzy combo. I was definitely looking at drafting this guy if nobody else did. I probably would have left him on the board for a couple more rounds, though, and somebody else would have snatched him up for sure. Because, I mean, he's just so legendary with his, like, World Series performance. I think he had one World Series where he started 3 games, he pitched complete games in all 3 games, and I think he allowed 1 run, pitched 2 shutouts, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but just a legend of the game. And you love to see when a legend of the game has these kind of really good numbers. And I think Dizzy Dean, I mean, he's got the great stamina. So I was going to use him in the bullpen because I just loaded up all my pitching already and I don't need any more starters, hopefully. But and we're going to get into this later. Like, a lot of people are taking bullpen guys, which these guys should be awesome, hopefully. But, like, part of my strategy with having these starters in the bullpen is if I have a starter go down, I have these great pitchers that are ready to kind of step into that role if they have to. So I think taking these great bullpen guys is not a bad strategy at all. It just might be a little bit more risky. Like, if they fail, like, I don't know. I think I've been bitten too many times, but as we'll see, Minnesota picked 2 bullpen guys, and he has had really good luck, I think, with having bullpen guys in his bullpen. I mean, which makes sense. That should work. It's funny that it just never seems to for me. Like, I had Eric Gagne, and he was just terrible. But when we get to him, we'll see his numbers are not terrible by any means. Okay. Next, we got Ozzie Smith, another Cardinal. Yeah, Marine had to just be, like, hating this, watching these 2 guys come off the board back to back. And then I took Nolan Ryan, who he said he was also looking at. But I think we got Ozzie in here. 1987 Ozzie. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what you want to see out of Ozzie, just these insane defensive ratings. I mean, not completely insane. Maybe it could be even a little bit better, but this is exactly why you would draft him, right? And then this contact is not bad at all. Like, I mean, this avoid K's is amazing. So I'm really happy to see Ozzie looking like this. I think it's a really good pick by Yak. I know that Ozzie has struggled in this game, mostly from this lack of the offense. Like, and, like, it's okay to have a guy on your team that's just really good at defense. That's the case in baseball. But in FODEUSS, like, you just don't want to have those holes in your lineup, I guess, as much. So we're probably overstating how bad he's been in the game. He's probably added a lot of value with his glove, actually. it'd be interesting to look at his overall WAR and FODEUSS. But yeah, I think this is a great pick. Like just maybe the best defensive shortstop of all time. So happy to see him go in the 7th round. And I think he's going to be better this year than he's been in the past. So great pick. Next was me with Nolan Ryan. And, like, obviously I would have picked him earlier if he looked, if he looked better than the other pitchers that I picked, but he didn't. But it's Nolan Ryan, and nobody was taking him. And this is another one where I'm banking on the fact that people just have picked the wrong year. Because every year in the past, people picked 73, I believe. And he hasn't been great. The main problem with 73 is like he didn't like even in this year. I think he walked almost 4 guys per 9 innings, but his control is at least at a 45. Whereas in those earlier years, he was walking like 6 guys per 9, and so his control is like 25 or something. So even though he still brings you this great stuff, even in those earlier years, and maybe even better movement, I don't know. The pitches aren't going to be any better than this. I looked at all the years, of course. Um, I just thought, I mean, he does turn 40 during this season. He's almost 40 when the season starts, and his stamina maybe is reflecting that because he pitched over 200 innings or something, 217 innings, I think. So you'd think the stamina would at least be a little higher than this, but I think maybe just the fact that he's so old. But that's why I'm going to use him as like my setup guy for Dazzy. And I just think having this great stuff and these great pitches is good for the bullpen. I've seen some people say that online, like that's their strategy for, and since I've never actually played the game, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea to like look around and see what people do with their bullpens and stuff. I found this video that maybe I'll post in the thread that is just like a 2-minute video, but it just basically shows like all your different options for your bullpen roles and stuff and how you can set it up. And for people who are kind of unfamiliar with the game, it might be good to check that out. I'll try to post that in the thread at some point when we get closer to actually structuring our teams, maybe. Okay. Oh, then we had all these people just taking my dudes. Well, not all of them. Cubby took Eddie Plank, but the next 2 out of the next 3 picks were like heartbreakers for me. The next one being Edgar, and I probably should have taken Edgar by this point, but my rationale was that I don't really need a DH yet because you have the entire history of baseball, tons of guys that were bad at defense but amazing bats, right? Like, and there's gonna be guys that have I promise there's guys that have better numbers than Edgar, but still he has been awesome in FODEUSS for me the last 2 years. So like that, there is a thinking to base your draft strategy more on past success because it does seem to translate to the next season in a lot of cases. But since it doesn't always, and you're looking at the numbers, when I'm looking at the numbers, I'm scouting all these other guys. I've got guys that have the contact at 75 and everything else basically the same. I mean, he does have this great eye too. I mean, as far as picking a DH, I love that his numbers do look this good, and it makes sense that his defense looks this bad. Although he does have potential to have good defense at first if you were to try him there. But I think he's going to probably be great again as your DH. So, excellent pick. Sorry to see him go. Good luck over there, Edgar. Okay, let's go to Cubby's pick, Eddie Plank. And he didn't have a year, so let's see if it'll give me the... Okay, I almost didn't record this because the shit has been freezing a little bit again, and I was like, oh man, I'm just gonna have to go through this, but let's just hope it's not too bad and we don't have any like major shutdowns. Okay, there he is. Let's see if it'll give me the year here. Yeah, okay, so I went with 1908. I think maybe that's the wrong year because it's like 1908 was kind of a year of the pitcher. It was like when Christy Mathewson had his crazy season. So since everybody else has to be compared to that, even though Eddie Plank also had a crazy season that year, it just wasn't quite Christy Mathewson level. So the pitches look really good though. It's just like he's going to give up, and the control's decent, and Home runs allowed, pretty good. Stuff, solid. Um, but just like maybe the BABIP is like the one thing. He's going to give up a lot of hits. I don't know. I don't think this is a bad pick by any means, and you haven't picked a year. I would probably, for this one, I would probably get a few different scouting reports. Because like when you look at this, you can see there's more WAR in a lot of other seasons than, like, I picked '08 because it had this really crazy ERA plus, and like there was I feel like the WHIP was the lowest, like like a lot of stuff was the best, like I'm sure the FIP was probably the best because that's what I based stuff on a lot. But yeah, like this 9.9 WAR 1905 definitely might be worth looking at. In fact, I think, yeah, I would look at that. Maybe we should look at it right now. What the hell? Might as well. We're trying to be as in-depth as possible. And when people are unsure on the year, it is kind of fun to not just look at the one year. Because if I was unsure on the year, I sure as hell would look at a bunch of them. But let's just look at one. We'll look at 1905 here. My fan died, my desk fan. So I have this other like tower fan behind me, but it's not doing the same thing. I think it is quieter though. I thought about adding like some music to the background of these videos. Maybe I'll do that next time. I have enough original music that I wouldn't have to really worry about copyright, I don't think. Okay, so let's look at 1905. Freezing on us again. I'm like, I can see that the stars are the same, so I'm not expecting a radical difference here. What I would expect is like maybe the pitches could possibly be a little bit better. And if that's the case, it might be worth switching over. Okay, didn't work. There we go. Oh yeah, they are a little bit better. This one is a little worse. I think the fastball is a little worse because I think we had them all in the green before, but they were in this green instead of this kind of turquoise. And these numbers look pretty similar actually. I don't know. Yeah, maybe get a few more years because Eddie Plank, another one of those like Hall of Fame pitchers that was just a model of consistency. So definitely worth checking out if you have the NT Bucks like 4 or 5 seasons. Like, oh God, here we go, Jocko Milligan, and he looks great here. Yeah, he wasn't gonna be my next pick, so Wang would have got one more crack at him anyway, because my next pick was gonna be George Wright, no matter what. I just wanted to lock him up. I just decided that he was my shortstop. He's the, baseball's first superstar. Like he was before they actually organized the major leagues in 1871. He was having years like where he hit like 600 with like 25 homers in like 54 games. Like and yeah, that's why he was like literally the Babe Ruth of the Civil War. Anyway, so I was set on George Wright, but then Jocko was gonna like on my list. He was next, like, and so if I would have gotten to pick him, he was gonna be my backup catcher, and I still might pick a backup catcher with the next pick. I'm like pretty close to picking here. It's just Lloyd and Yak in front of me, but that could take a while. But I'm still thinking about a backup catcher there. I was gonna take Yachty as I mentioned in the thread, but I'm kind of freed up now. Now that both Jocko and Yachty are gone, I might hold off on that position because I still do need so many positions as far as the corners go. Basically filling up the corners of the team now. It's left field, right field, third base, first base, DH. That's what I'm looking at. But of course, I my pitching staff is not complete either. So there's a lot of ways to go. But yeah, Jocko. I mean, the defense is like my baseline, right? I've mentioned that before. Like, that wouldn't go lower than this. But it's not going to hurt you too bad when you're getting this offense, which is, as we've seen, is really hard to find from the catcher spot. And really great speed for a catcher, too. which you're really only getting out of these 1800s guys, I feel like. So, I mean, there's so many ways to build the team, as we've mentioned so many times before. And I think a lot of guys shy away from these 1800s guys. People are gravitate more towards players they know more about. And I felt that when we first started doing this, like even in the what if days. But since then, I've learned so much more about these guys. And Jocko, his orphan ass, like I love that guy. Like I've gotten really attached to him. So that's what this game can do to you. It's like whereas like in the early drafts, I really wanted to get all the most famous players to me. Willie Mays was so important to get, Barry Bonds, like. But now I'm like, I still have Willie, but I don't know. I'm much more open, and I love reading Saber profiles of guys I've never heard of, and I've been doing that recently. There's some guys that have moved up my draft board, and I'm waiting on a few scouting reports, but guys that I know very little about. And one guy I really wish there was a Saber profile for, and maybe I'll just have to research one. I don't know, but if there isn't one, so I'm like, oh, I hope I hope he wasn't like a crazy asshole or something, and that's why there's. I always have this weird suspicion, if there's not a Saber profile, maybe it's because they were evil. Okay, yeah, lasers in the gap, motherfucking Jocko Milligan. Let's go to the next pick, which was Pointy with Mariano Rivera. And, like if you're going to pick your closer, might as well pick the best one of all time. Do wish his numbers looked a little better, but they don't look bad, right? And again, maybe not what you're actually getting. I thought with Rivera, there was like that 1 year really early in his career when he wasn't the closer. He was just the setup guy, but he threw he got into, yeah, it must have been 1996. He got into 61 games. And he only had 5 saves, but he did have like his career high whip and stuff, and like was striking out over 10 guys per 9, which he never did again. You want to look at it? Let's look at it. Might as well look at it since I brought it up. It's probably not better than this, but it might be. It was interesting to me anyway. But yeah, here we're getting into the closers. I didn't even look at, I didn't even show off his stamina level. It's the one problem with the actual relief pitchers. At least I think it is. It just seems like it is. Like, why else are they, why else am I struggling with them so much? But like I said before, Minnesota, I think, had a real traditional bullpen and had really good success with it. Maybe not last year, but the year before. And I'm just looking at that, like, kind of baffled, because the first out of the park season, I did that. I had all traditional relievers and relief roles, and they all sucked. Okay, well, I mean, I think this looks like 96 is the way, because you get both pitches are 70 now. And this is more like what I think Mariano Rivera should look like, compared to both being 60 here. So I would get the reports from Inti if you have the cash, but I would look at 96 as well as, what was the year you picked? Age 35. I think it was like 2004. Must have been 2004 or 2005. Whatever year you picked is what year this is. And I just fucked it up by clicking on it. Okay. So next we will have Mike Trout. Oh man, another guy that I looked at extensively. I had like 7 years of Mike Trout in my other import. But I didn't import them into this one because I do think that you landed on the right one. Amazing. I think 2016 was the one that looked the best for me. And he looks really good here. All of the years were 5 stars in my other import, because this import is just so harsh on the, actually giving people their props. But like, he's 85 error, like outfield error. He's just and the range is good. I don't know why the overall rating is only 55. It should be much higher. But then you just have this balance on and with the insane eye. And not even striking out that much this year. The NT's import might look a little different there, I feel like. But I mean, I can't believe he was still there in the seventh round. I think since we moved to Out of the Park, he's been picked in the first round a couple times. Maybe he was a keeper one year. I don't even know, but normally taken way earlier, and interesting to see him stay on the board so long. But I mean, great move to pick him up at this point. Obviously, also like this range and this arm aren't going to be as big a deal because you're going to have him in left or right, not playing center. And I think these overall ratings are, the air ratings. He's gonna be really good in either of those positions, since you have Ty Cobb patrolling center field. All right, let's keep it going. Minnesota with Cupid Childs, another guy I had scouted. I mean, he just looks really good with the ratings every year, and I think he has been good. I mean, I've had him on my team, and I think I used him mostly in a backup role. So like he was just getting starts. Like I think one year, I think when I still had Nap Lajoie, I had him in my backup role, and Nap ended up getting hurt, and Cupid Childs ended up playing like a ton for me and was awesome. And then I think Lloyd had him last year, and Lloyd has so many middle infielders with, especially second basemen, with Dunlap and Ross Barnes, that he might not have got too much playing time. I'd have to look back at that, but as you can see, the defense 80 at second base, the speed, the eye, and the contact. I mean, you're only lacking in the power numbers. Like, so this is just going to be, I think, a great FODEUSS player, because we see the guys that have these two numbers really high, but the rest of the numbers really low. Those are the guys that tend to struggle, it seems like, with the level of pitching that they're going up against. But the guys who can make contact and have a great eye, they're just going to get on base. They're going to keep the line moving. And that's really what you need. It feels like we're never getting these crazy home run seasons. Even Gemini Joe, who played last year and like stacked his team with home run hitters and put them at cores. Like, I think those guys did hit a bunch of homers, but it was like, 30 homers. It wasn't like they were hitting 60. Like, that's just not going to happen in FODEUSS. So it's like, you do want to have that power for the run production, but it's not as reliable as you'd like. So it's like you need, even when you're going for power guys, you need them to have some kind of contact ability as well. But anyway, Cupid Child's great pick. Great with the contact, great with the defense. And now we're going to the Lord of Darkness, Eric Gagne. 2003 Gagne, of course, is the proper vintage, I think. You're not going to, he had those 3 crazy seasons in a row, but this was by far the craziest. So, and you can see 85 stuff, these pitches, all at least 80, 90 curveball. Autumn, like, I feel like is building a really interesting team, where I've felt like a few of the picks have been misses, maybe a little bit. Some of the picks have been amazing. And like, to me, just looking at the ratings for these closers, this might be the best one. This might be the best one on the board. You might have the best closer. It's possible, get the actual reports. We're just going off my scouts, but if I was going to pick a closer, which I've already explained, I'm just, I'm going with starters and putting them in different roles. But if I was going to pick a closer, I would have picked Eric Gagne. And I did, in fact, in the first Out of the Park draft. I think I took him in the second round because I was so convinced that it was going to be really important. And then he was terrible. So now I have an anti-Gagne bias. But that doesn't mean he's going to be bad for you. And he's definitely not been bad for other people. Anyway, I have an anti-relief pitcher in general bias, in fact, because it wasn't just him. It's my whole bullpen. And then heels with Denny Driscoll. Again, going back to previous videos, these imports of these earlier pitchers can't be right. Like, and just based off the one that I actually saw from NT, comparing it to mine, I don't think it's right. I mean, these pitches should be better. And I don't think Heels picked a year, but we went with 1882 Driscoll. And again, maybe the wrong year, but he had such a short career. And this was clearly like the best statistical year, I think. he does have this amazing control. I just think if you looked at at Inti's import, these pitches are going to be a little bit better. This stuff's going to be a little bit better. I can't promise that, but I'm guessing when you get your final, assuming you don't actually pay to get multiple year scouting reports, when you get the final report, it's probably going to look better than this. He's probably going to be good. I mean, the reason Heels is picking this guy is he's been good for him before, and I can't see that not continuing to be the case. Unless it's just like a fluky thing that just happens with players in this game. And then, so yeah, we shouldn't spend too much time on these 1800s pitchers though, because it's just not right, I don't think. All right, let's look at Derek Jeter. I think I did actually pull in a couple years of Jeter. Because again, Heels didn't pick a year, so I was tempted to look at a couple different ones. So we got age 24 Jeter, which I think was like, what, 99? And it froze again. Do we get it? No, it doesn't say. I think this was 99 though. Just amazing with the BABIP, right? And that's like such an important stat. I think that it's enough to carry you here. And then the defense is just like maybe good enough at short. He might be hurting you a little there. And then this one, same defense and just a little bit worse. I think this was the year like that he led the league in O-WAR. It's like 2005 or something. What if this one was 99? Yeah, then this would be like two. Yeah, well, yeah, whatever. You'll figure it out. I can figure it out actually. Let's look really quick. So we are now into round 8. This is the first pick in round 8. Let's just look. So yeah, 99 was when he hit 349 and had a 153 OPS plus. And then I think it must be 2006 when he led 2006 he led the major leagues in O-WAR, and I thought that would be one to look at. But I do think 99 when he also led the major leagues in O-WAR and led the major leagues in WAR that year as well. That's probably your year. So let's keep going. Tunes with Dennis Eckersley. I think I might have pulled in. I think, oops. There was like an obvious Eckersley year that you missed, maybe. Not that 92 looks bad. Like, yeah, this is another one like kind of similar to some of the other picks like Jim Thome, where it doesn't look bad at all, right? I mean, the pitches are amazing. The control and the stuff are amazing. All 3 pitches are incredible. So 92, definitely not a bad pick. But I thought 90 was just, these numbers are a little bit better. And you're still getting, this 90 control is insane. You almost never see that. But again, with these closers, you are going to get this 30 stamina. So they are limited to this bullpen role. Don't have to use them as the closer, but you do have to use them in kind of short relief. And that's just how it goes with these guys. But, I mean, a great pick. I do think I would switch to 1990, though, over 92. But that's just me. Okay, it's me again, George Wright. And as I explained, I mean, just kind of a legendary figure of baseball that not enough is known about. But also, I wish these numbers, these defensive numbers, were a little bit better for my shortstop. But I mean, him and Eddie Collins combining to turn double plays all the time is going to be amazing, and obviously pretty good. So, not hating on the defensive ratings. I think I kind of have a feeling when I see NT's import that these numbers are going to be a little lower, especially the power numbers. I'm hoping the contact will be similar, but might be a little, it might be like 60 BABIP, 60 contact, maybe, staying around 55 avoid Ks. And these power numbers I expect will be lower, like maybe drastically, maybe even, but I'm hoping this defense might be even a little better because I've seen that before. But But yeah, I'm just happy to have this guy. He's just such a iconic figure that nobody really knows that much about. And that's kind of, like I said in the thread, like my dream team anymore in this game is it's like the guys who I think will do the best based on my scouts combined with all the weird lore about these guys and the fact that I've gotten attached to this guy having I had him on my team for the last 3 years. Just wanted to make sure I had him back even though I didn't think anybody would draft him. There is always the chance, like, and I hesitate to mention this because I think that maybe I'll have to make George Wright a keeper if I do. But I always think that Lloyd will draft him because, like, he played with Ross Barnes on those like unbeatable Boston teams from 1971 to 1975, or 1871 to 1875, I should say. And they were the middle infield together. So I always wait for Lloyd to snag him from me. And now that I planted the seed, because you know that Lloyd's gonna watch this video, even if no one else does. Now that I've planted the seed, I'm probably gonna have to keep George Wright. I can't risk it now. Anyway, maybe he'll offer me some kind of crazy trade for him. That would be fun. Not, yeah, like this whole thing was a ploy to make that happen. I'm gonna end up with Ted Williams. Oh, I can't though. He's the franchise keeper. Okay, Dean Chance by Amazing here. Let's look at him. I expected Dean Chance to look better than this. This is got to be 1964 Chance. But like this movement number is not to be discounted. It is really important. And I think whenever we're looking at these pitchers that had these great seasons, like my numbers are always kind of a little low. And maybe it's the opposite for hitters. I feel like my imports are just skewed more towards offense and they're not giving these pitchers their due sometimes. So this is another one that I would probably want to, see the actual import from Inti. But the stuff you just think would be a little bit better and the pitches would be a little bit better. That's my only real knock on this import, but I do think it's a good pick and I think he's been good in FODEUSS. I think Sean was really sad to see him go, so yeah, we'll see what happens. I think this home runs allowed number and just the overall movement, the lower BABIP, like that's going to be enough to get you through probably. And also like the ground baller. You got Joe Morgan and Joe Cronin on defense, who we saw were really good in the middle infield. That's going to be huge. Wade Boggs at third. You're lacking a little bit there. Defensively, like he's just like an offensive powerhouse. But, I think you'll get by. He was at least solid, right? Okay, so let's look at Helton. Todd Helton, picked by Pointy. 2000 Helton. And this is another one I've looked at it. It's just that incredible balance and great defense at first. Like incredible balance all the way down the board. No holes in his game offensively. None of these like crazy stats either, but I mean, this is like basically what a lot of other first basemen that I've been looking at look like. Like, I mean, not a lot of the first basemen, but like 4 or 5 other guys that kind of had these crazy offensive years. This is basically what you're getting. And these are guys that look at, they're all 5 stars in my other import. And then when I bring them over here, it always says 3.5 or 3, but we're gradually learning to ignore that. It's taking a long time. All right, the 6th pick of the 8th round was Wang with Corbin Burns. And, I had him last year. Not sorry to see him go. He always looks great. Like these ratings look amazing. We've seen all my other pitcher ratings. And if we're just comparing relative to everyone else's picks, this looks incredible. The only thing is, like, for a starter, the 60 stamina doesn't look great. That's why I put him in the bullpen. And I don't think he was great for a Star War the year before either. Like, I don't know. Yeah, like I ended up sending him to the minors because he just didn't cut it for me. But as we know, Wang is like the pitching guru. And if anybody's going to go to any team and suddenly find success, it's going to be Wang's team. And I expect Corbin Burns to finally look like himself this year. I wonder if Wang's going to use him out of the bullpen or as a starter. I'm sure we'll find out pretty soon as people start posting their rosters and kind of piecing things together. I haven't done that yet because I'm so far away from actually having a roster. Like like I'm missing like 5 starters on offense. But I could post it pretty like now because I do have my pitching is already kind of falling into place and like my rotation should be set and the bullpen is even starting to take shape. I at least have 2 guys for the pen and my computer's just freaking out right now, so that's why I'm just killing time. I don't know. I knew this might be an issue. Hopefully it'll figure itself out here and we can continue the video. If not, I don't know. I did bring another beer, so that's good at least. Yeah, it's just spinning its wheels here. It's really bad. I haven't seen it do this exact thing before, but obviously I'm having a lot of issues when I'm trying to run. I guess it's just trying to run too many things at once. This computer should be able to handle it, but it is having a real problem. Yeah, I think you can even see up here where it's just like saying not responding. It's just like flashing and oh wait. Oh, if I just clicked onto the thing, it actually killed it. I did not expect that to work. I expected, if anything, like that would crash the program. So I was really reluctant to do it, but it actually worked. Okay. Cubby with Harmon Killebrew. This was kind of a tough one. This is another one I hope will look better on the actual NT imports, and very well might. I think I just went with highest OPS plus season, highest WAR season. If you're, you might want to get a few different reports. Obviously, had a bunch of good years. Let's see if we can look at the batting stats. Yeah, this is 1961. This was like a 77.5 WAR season. He didn't really ever have the crazy batting average year, like not when he played a full season at least. But he hit 288 this year, and the 46 homers, over 1,000 OPS. In 1961, which was kind of going into a pitching-dominated era. So the power numbers are crazy. It's just how many balls is he going to connect with? And I've stressed that these numbers I think are more important, but I don't. There's no right answer in this game, really. Okay, so now we got to scroll down a bit here in the thread. Got to the end of the update. Okay, so RX with Emmanuel Clase. I don't know that Emmanuel Clase was rostered last year, even though this is the 22 season. Maybe he was, and I missed it. Could have been, because this is the 2022 season that RX picked. And I've speculated about whether RX has the game. I wonder, and just wondering if some of his imports might look a little different from mine. This was one of those for me. Okay, we're unfrozen. But it doesn't look bad, right? It's just that he only has the 2 pitches, and they're both kind of mid on my import. But the movement combined with the control, that looks amazing. And you might not need to be striking out guys if you're just not letting them get on base, or get homers at all. So this might actually end up being an amazing pick. That's the thing. You can get pitchers that have the great stuff and the great pitches, like Nolan Ryan. But if you noticed on Nolan Ryan's report, these other numbers were down here. It was just leaning into that, which I think is what I want to do for the bullpen. But there's no guarantee that would work better than this. Better because Nolan Ryan's gonna be walking a bunch of guys, and then his home runs allowed are more down here. So if he walks a couple guys and then gives up a homer, this guy's letting guys put balls in play maybe, but they're mostly outs. So yeah, I think it's a good pick. You definitely see a lot of relievers coming off the board now. I will say there is one reliever I'm considering picking. And if he stays on the board for a few more rounds, I probably will. But for the most part, I'm happy just taking starters. Like, I'm going to probably end up having to get a couple lefty starters to kind of fill a lefty role in the bullpen. But I just like having that stamina and also that flexibility when guys go down. I have guys that are already on the 26-man roster that can step right into that starting role, that that have either proven themselves in the bullpen or not. Like, I already kind of know what I'm getting. I like that a lot, rather than trying to call somebody up from the minors that might not fill in as well. But I get wanting to get these great relievers, and that's what we've got next with the next two picks by Minnesota. Joe Nathan is the first one. And these are two of the best relievers, right up there with Gagne and Eckersley, I would say. Rivera maybe like a little bit of a tier below, but that doesn't seem fair. I do think that 96 Rivera looked great, though. Let's look at Joe Nathan. Yeah, I mean, you just see, like, it's just all blue, right? I mean, except for the BABIP number a little, like, not, I mean, just compared to the rest. Like, when we see this number on other guys, we're like, oh, yeah, it looks really good. But no, it looks like this guy, it's like, wow. All these 4 pitches. I mean, of course, the stamina is low. It's a closer, but... yeah, and then if we look at Kimbrel, the stuff is 80 here. I think, yeah, the stuff is 85, I think, on Kimbrel. Who was the other, the other reliever that Minnesota took here. And we'll let that do its thing. Oh, here we go, the big freeze. Everything just glitches out. Hopefully we're back. Yeah, 85 stuff here. The one thing you're lacking here is the control. You do have one kind of bad number here where you didn't have any on Nathan. But it does have the potential to be in the green. And then these 3, again, just the 3 pitches. And like I said, I think Minnesota has made this bullpen strategy work before. So I trust him to do it again. But, we'll see. You never know. Like, maybe the bullpen is going to blow up in his face, and then he'll join us, the converts, that are like, I will never draft another bullpen pitcher again. Okay, we got a Yak with Eddie Matthews. And he looks incredible with the power numbers and the eye. Again, one guy that I'm kind of steering away from. Just my philosophy is that these contact numbers are a little bit more important than these power numbers, but he's going to be okay at third base. Again, I would probably look for a little bit more, but then, like, what I'm looking at with the third basemen that are left on the board right now, I might end up drafting a guy that looks kind of like this, even though I really don't want to, because, I want Dave Brown to be successful, and he's a ground baller. I don't want to have any weak defense on the infield. I mean, this you're not worried about at all because he's at third base. So, like, and that shouldn't be dragging him down. These basic other infield ratings are okay. Like, and that's kind of how I'm rationalizing it when I'm looking at some of these guys, like Denny Lyons. I'm like, is this, the defense is like this, but the offense is, it's a little bit crazier than at least it's just my scouts. Like, that's why I don't even mind shouting out that name. I've shouted out other names in previous videos and people still aren't drafting them. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense actually, because my scouting reports aren't the end all be all. And maybe some of the names I shouted out, people did go and get the scouting reports and then they were like, nah, Tom was wrong about that. Okay, so then we have Tunes with his pick, which he recanted and ended up picking Pee Wee Reese, which I love. I think that's great. Dodger legend. The numbers are just like really kind of balanced here. Like, you have these pretty good contact numbers and these really good speed numbers and really good infield ratings with a pretty decent rating at shortstop. There might be, like, again, with a lot of Tunes picks, I feel like I've been nitpicking the years a bunch, and, there might be other years to look at. But I think this is going to be a really good pick for you. He's just going to hold down the shortstop spot and probably might look a little bit better on NT's reports. But yeah, good pick tunes. Oh, I did grab one more year. I grabbed his age 35 season as well, which does look a little better. I think, yeah, and yeah, so this was 1954, Pee Wee Reese. He hit over 300 that year. He had a little bit more pop and wait, yeah, so you had 53. Wait, actually, I don't know because we have to go to where you changed picks here. Let me see what year you had. Oh, you had 51. So you had this year where you had 286, OPS 760. This year you had an OPS of 859. So I do think 54 is the year I would go with. I think the numbers, it just looks a lot, it makes me happier to see. And also the defense is a little bit better. And really just balanced with all the ratings, all in the turquoise there. So yeah, I think I would look at 54 Pee Wee, but that's just me. That's just what my scouts are saying about it. Okay, next we have Autumn with Toby Hara. Another just like, wow. I mean, it makes me realize how much I don't know about baseball. When I think I know, like, I've been playing this game for 7 years and I've read so many Saber profiles and I've looked at so many baseball reference pages. And for Autumn to come out with Dave Cash, Mickey Vickers, and now Toby Hara, and I'm like, I should know these guys. They're all-star players, but I don't. Like, it's humbling a little bit. It's like man, the vastness of the history of baseball is like, and look at Toby Hara, looking really good. I do think you seem to be counting on him to be like a multi-positional player, and you wanted to play him at short. At least for what I'm getting on this year, you're going to definitely want to get the scouting report from NT, I think, because he's only showing up at third base, and the defense isn't like at a level where I would be confident putting him at shortstop. I'm sure, like, if we look at his baseball reference page really quick, we can see. Oh, yeah. Toby Hara, okay. Okay, my shit froze again. And you had, oh man. I'm just asking my computer to do too much, apparently. I just wanted to go back and see what year you picked, but it won't let me. Oh yeah, I can't do anything. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you had 82. And it does, no, it does look like an 82. He played a little tiny bit of second base and shortstop, but he played 159 games, and he started 157 games at third base. So he had just a couple games there, like. So I think that's why they're not even giving you those positions, because he didn't even start either of those games. He just played a couple innings basically at shortstop and second base in 83. So yeah, I don't know about the plan of playing him at short. I think that actually might be the thing that sinks your team. If you put this guy as your starting shortstop, but I do think he's going to be a useful player on your team. You might just have to pivot here and just slide him into more of a bench role. But I really want to, I mean, the main reason I'm doing this video is I want everybody to be as successful as possible, and to, for their team to be like as amazing as it can be, and for the league to be as competitive as it can be. So I do think, I'm just, as like a little bit of helpful advice, I don't think I'd play this guy at shortstop. I don't think I'd start this guy on my team even. I think I'd use this guy in like a useful bench role. There are tons of shortstops out there still. I mean, I've been scouting them. There's like a bunch that you could take. I don't want to be like I'm trying to like be helpful with the guys people have already picked. I don't want to be too helpful and just shout out all the names of people you should draft or anything, but there's a lot of names out there of guys that would be a lot better as your starting shortstop than that guy. But again, not a bad pick. Going to be a useful player on your team, I think, with those numbers, those offensive numbers. Okay, then we got Dark Lord of the Empire with a twofer. He's got Zach Greinke and Billy Wagner here. Zach Greinke, I think, is just like a really clear case of picking the wrong year here, because this is 2015 Zach Greinke, and Greinke's been great in FODEUSS, or at least really, like putting up solid WAR, like putting up 5 WAR per year, like, but everybody's been basically using the 2009 Greinke. I think that 2015 is sexy because of the really low whip, like insanely low whip, but the other numbers don't balance out as well as 2009, which this is 2009, and I just think it's gonna look a lot better for you. Probably like might even look even better in Inti's imports. I know I've had that happen before, specifically with Greinke the year that I drafted him. I was like, I saw the ratings from Inti for 2009, and I was like, oh god, I gotta get him. So yeah, I do think this is, if you're listening, Dark Lord of the Empire, I think this is one that is like a clear switch. I mean, as always, get the imports from NT to make sure, but I don't think it's going to, I think that 2009 is going to look better than 2015 for sure. But it's a good pick, especially if you switch the year, I think. Okay, let's go to Billy Wagner, one of the best bullpen guys to pick. Just 4 amazing pitches, 3 in the dark blue, 85 stuff. Again, kind of the Nolan Ryan problem a little bit. But Nolan Ryan only had 75 stuff, but he had 65 stamina, I think, right? Yeah, it was kind of low. It wasn't 80, but it was up here. Like, I feel like it gives you a little bit more leeway. I think just the way the game works, it's punishing you for having that low stamina, and then you'll be tired going into the next day, and it's like, it's just easier to build the pen with all starters, but very tempting to build it this way because we're not seeing starters with these numbers. So like, yeah, it's this game is all about striking balances, and with the new people to the league, it's going to be really interesting to see how it can work. Like, also, like, my approach, which is so analytical and spending so much time with out of the park and importing guys, I'm not sure that it necessarily is the best. I mean, we've seen, since we moved to out of the park, we've seen Lloyd win, we've seen DP win, and we've seen Heels win. And I think Heels has the game too. And I know DP and Lloyd have a similar approach to me. But Heels, like, as we've seen, like he's drafting like guys that are like his favorite guys. It's very much more like the Toons approach, or the Jedi Marine approach, that drafting these Hall of Famers that you like or that you have some connection to, and we saw win the World Series last year. So you can definitely overthink this, I think, but Billy Wagner is a great pick, and the numbers look insane, as they should. And then Mark Eichhorn, another great pick. I didn't realize he looked so good in FODEUSS. And I think Sean was saying he was really good for him last year. Because I kind of think of him as like just throwing it up there real slow. But yeah, look at these numbers. Like, they're just all really good. One thing I thought was dumb is that he's like, just like Billy Wagner and like a bunch of these other closers we've seen, only has this 30 stamina, but Mark Eichhorn threw 150 some innings in this season. Like, so I feel like he should at least have like 45 or 50. It's not a starter's stamina, but it should be higher than a normal bullpen guy when you're coming in there and giving that many innings. Anyway, that was my one complaint about this import. Might look a little different on NTs as always, but damn, yeah. I wasn't even looking at Eichhorn. And they say he throws at 92, 94, which I think is bullshit. I think he was throwing his fastball at like 87. I watched a whole video about it once. Anyway, turns out it's a really good pick. And now we've done it. We're at the last pick of round 8. It's Roy Halladay. Let's look at it. I was surprised by this one. I pulled in an extra year, and I think that one might be better. But this is 2011 Halliday, which I had on my team last year, and these numbers looked a lot better. So I would definitely, get if you want to compare years, like I'm doing here, I would get the imports from NT because it might look a lot better. Just these pitches were all like up here instead. Like he does have 6 pitches, right, which is great, but you want him, well, at least some of them, to be up here. I was just a little bit surprised by this, especially since this is like 2011 Halliday. It doesn't have it here, but it was like the one where he led the league in FIP. I just thought we'd get better numbers there. Like great control though. But then I did pull in a younger Halliday, age 24. Oh, that still doesn't have it, but let me see if I can figure out what year it is really quick. Roy H. Yeah, so the one was 2011, and then this one must be 2002, I think. Yeah, this is 2002 Halliday here, where he was the best in the league at not allowing home runs. So these numbers, these movement numbers are great, right? And this control number, like I do think, like even though the pitches are kind of similar, like it's not exactly what you want. This is another one of those pitchers that's kind of like Class A, where if these 4 numbers are all really good, then the stuff and the pitches themselves maybe don't mean as much. Like I feel like the pitches mean more if you're more dependent on the stuff. If you're depending on having great movement and great control, then you're allowing balls in play, but you're getting outs. And I think so. I do think I might. Oh, I think I would. What I would do in this situation is I would get these 2 years from NT. I might look at 2003 as well. I would get 2011, 2002, 2003. I mean, pretty consistent there for a lot of these years. But those are the 3 that I think are your top candidates, and I would just go with whatever the top ratings were. But that's it. We did it. Another FODEUSS breakdown with only a few technical breakdowns. And, that's what we expect. We expect awkwardness and technical breakdowns and an hour of breakdowns. I thought I thought we were getting this one in a little quicker because I was so much more dialed in at the beginning, but apparently I rambled again. Apologies for that, but we'll see you next week with the next 2 rounds of the FODEUSS draft. Adios. It froze right now, so I think I'm still recording.